Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again, back with more relationship stories. In this video, my crazy family demanded that I give my new car to my lazy brother, even though they abandoned me years ago. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, I might be destroying my own family. I'm a 25-year-old male with a wife of 2 years. We have a beautiful little girl who we accidentally had when we were 18. No regrets, obviously. She is 6 as of right now, and she and my wife are everything to me. I work in a dangerous field. It pays well and was something I got into when we found out that she was pregnant. I make good enough money that my wife can pursue her dream of doing an online business now that our daughter is in school. My childhood best friend also joined me in this field. We were both directionless after high school, so we jumped into this together, and he was my bro for life. I say was because I watched him die on the job a couple weeks ago. A mistake was made by one of our fellow co-workers and it resulted in his death. He left behind a girlfriend and a 1-year-old little girl as well. I had to break the news to his girlfriend on my own, and it was tough. I told her I would make sure that whatever her and the kids need, I would be there. I've already assisted in bills and I've been by a few times to console her. With this, I've also been hitting the gym to keep my mind off things while also letting my anger and frustrations empty themselves. Because of this, I have not been home a lot this lately. Last night I got back very late and my wife was up asking where I've been and what's been going on. I told her that I'd just been working long hours and been stressed from work, so I've been taking drives to relax. She mentioned my friend's GF came by the house on Saturday asking where I was. So she didn't believe me. She asked, do we need to talk about something? And I just said, no, everything is fine. And she kept pestering me about why she was at our door and something not adding up with you lately and I wanna understand. And something went off in my head and I started raising my voice and said, there's nothing to talk about, we are good. And our daughter came out in the middle of us going back and forth saying she wet the bed. My wife looked at me quietly and sternly said, I don't know what's going on with you, but you need to get your crap together. We need you and it feels like you went missing and I don't feel like I can rely on you. And she took our daughter tonight and yesterday night, depending on when you're reading this. I've been crying a lot lately and it's just not something I want them to see. It's not something I want to talk about or really know how to. It's the hardest thing I've had to deal with in my life to this point, as I'm not a super emotional person. Most of my life I really had to look over myself as my dad was not around and my mom had her own issues that prevented her from being a great mom, but I don't blame her for it. Usually I've been able to figure it out, but I also always had my bro and now I don't. His own little family needs help too, and I just feel like crap really hit the fan and I don't even know if I fully processed it. That's not even including the fact that I don't know if I'm losing my own family at this rate. I don't feel comfortable about so much right now, and I don't think it's fair to put that on anyone else either. I don't know if it's an ego thing or me trying to be the man, but truthfully, I don't even know. It feels better typing this out and just posting this to the internet. Feels like I'm at least getting it out. So thank you, random internet strangers. Edit, I want to make this clear. I did reach out to my wife and asked her to come home and that we can talk about what's going on, and she agreed, but that I have a lot of explaining to do, which is fair. I'm also thrilled that this managed to somehow turn into me cheating with my dead friend's girlfriend. Nice Reddit. The few responses that are helpful and respectful, I do appreciate that. Just too many here are chronically online and try to spread their misery. A top comment said, friend, did you tell your wife about the contributions you are making to your late friend's family? She's asking for communication. Give it to her. Explain how his death made you feel, how breaking into his girlfriend made you feel. Hell, tell her that you've been blowing off some pressure by hitting the gym. She is your person, she is the one who vowed to be there for you. By keeping this in and trying to do everything yourself, you're preventing her from being able to support you, and in the face of this tragedy, you do need the support. You may have had to look after yourself before due to parents being unable to, and you may have figured that would always be the case, but you now have someone who loves you, who is asking you to explain so she can help. You're not good, you are grieving, you're having a tough time, your prolonged unexplained absences are an issue for your wife. You are not good. Hiding that fact won't change that fact. Be vulnerable, because let's face it, you are vulnerable right now, grief does that. Be open. Also trust in your wife who loves you, that she will support support you in this tough time. Please, for your sake and theirs, there's nothing to be gained out of you shouldering all of this alone other than resentment and miscommunication, and you're going through a tough enough time without that on top. Update to the story: so after begging my wife and daughter to come home, I told her that I would lay it all out and I would be an open book. They got home later Monday night and we had a late dinner. I just wanted to spend some time with them, especially my daughter, so we put her to bed kinda late. After that, my wife and I sat down. I told her the full rundown. Initially, she felt disappointed that I kept it from her, saying that was not fair to her and I need to be a better communicator. She did not care about the money really, just more so how I kept her in the dark for so long and that I don't need to tackle everything on my own, which I appreciated. She then asked me to really talk about it and how I'm feeling about everything, trying to understand where I am at and basically consoling me. We did that for about an hour and there were a few tears, but again, I was not trying to be an emotional slap. She understood why I've been distant and been getting home late, and now it makes more sense why she came around and she forgives me for all of that. I told her that I would like to keep helping them and that we have more than enough money to do so until we can either get a payout, sue, or all the above for them. I would also like her and the kid around more, as she understands how close I was with them and how I see them as my sister and niece at this point. She was close with their GF years ago too when we were younger. She agreed on all that with the condition that I drop down to 4/12 a week. She said if we can afford to help them, I can also afford to take more time off to explore therapy and spend more time with our family. She's been wanting to talk to me about it for a little while, and this was the condition she wanted, because she did feel like it was a bit of a betrayal, so I could tell that she was leveraging a bit, as she said, "We are not supposed to have those kind of secrets," and I just pulled her close and told her I can do that, and we hugged and I gave her a kiss. We then laid on the couch for just a bit, just talking, and I definitely felt better putting it behind us. So now I am Tuesday to Friday starting next week. I'm looking into both a grief and communications therapist since she wants me to work on communicating better, and she said that she will want to attend every once in a while too to see how it's going. She also asked to keep an open mind to moving to a different part of the company for safety reasons down the road as well. I know some requested a little update, and now that everything is settled, figured I would share. Despite some of the awful people that were replying and accusing me of infidelity, there were a good number of people who were trying to be helpful, and I appreciate that. I guess you take the good and bad, and with that I hope this maybe helps others. Thanks guys and girls. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, that's just classic Reddit. Sometimes people there are very quick to jump to conclusions. Either way, if you enjoy the relationship stories, please don't forget to like the video and post some star emojis in the comments if you wanna support me. Now let's move on to the title story, which is titled, "My ridiculous family demands I give my new car to my lazy brother even though they kicked me out 15 years ago." I was not ever planning on speaking out about my family situation. They wronged me in more ways than one, but at the end of the day, they are family. But after everything that's gone down these past few months, I've realized that I don't owe them my silence, and they certainly are not grateful for it anyway. Sometime after I turned 10, my brother, 15 at the time, started to develop some sort of jealousy towards me. It did not help that I was 5 years younger and showing much more talent in school than he ever did, and that our parents praised me constantly for it. It started off slowly, his transition into this revenge-seeking nightmare of a sibling he became, but if anything that only played to his advantage as my parents did not notice the gradual change. He would set me up for everything, destroy something, blame it on me, burn dinner, blame it on me, get bad grades, blame it on me, claiming I taught him the wrong things on purpose, etc. You get the picture, small things, but I started to notice that each time my parents would believe him, and of course I would suffer consequences. It only got worse from there. Even once he turned 18, he was still pointing the finger at me for random traps he had set. On his 19th birthday, he went downstairs early, opened all his presents and destroyed his cake. Then in the morning, he of course acted all shocked and the blame was slammed right on my shoulders. I did try each and every time something happened to fight for my innocence, but it got to the point where my parents did not even bother to hear me out. Sometimes there would be downright proof that my brother had done and caused something, but because of all my previous rebellions, they simply would not accept my proof. By my 15th birthday, I fully hated my brother. And my parents were slowly creeping up there too. The things I was being blamed for were getting ridiculous, and my parents just started to yell and shout at me for everything and anything. It is sad, but I started to realize that they actually just did not like me. I could feel tension rising as it led up to my 16th birthday. That was the first year that I did not get any presents off of them at all. Okay, well, I got one. It was a single night in the local motel to start me off. Yep, they kicked me out. It's not surprising really, seeing how much they started to dislike me and such. I can still remember the look on my brother's face, the smirk that was plastered on his mouth. I was devastated, and I was homeless for a good few months before I managed to find a job at a hotel that came with accommodation. My saving grace was my intelligence. Part of the deal was that I would tutor their daughter in math, which I did. This was all 15 years ago. I'm 31 now, and I have an amazing life. That hotel job really saved me, and as cringe as this is, the girl I tutored actually became my wife, whom I hope to spend the rest of my life with and maybe even have kids with one day. Anyway, enough of that. In the 15 years after I was kicked out, I did not hear anything from them, not a single thing. I was gutted. They really did not care. I wasn't really bothered that my brother didn't contact me, but my parents? That hurt. This complete lack of contact ended around 6 months ago when out of nowhere I got a happy birthday text from a number that was not saved in my phone. Happy birthday! I hope you have such an amazing day, it read. Now, I would like to just quickly add that I had recently started posting more on my Facebook about my life, pictures of me and my wife, etc. I managed to get a very good job in the IT world and make a rather large chunk of money, so although I was not trying to brag, the photos often depicted a more luxurious lifestyle. Who is this? I replied to the text. It's Mom, silly. How are you doing? I was stunned. There was no way that after all these years she decided to care about my birthday. But no matter how smart someone is, they will always attempt to see the good in their parents. Maybe it was some urge from my childhood self, but I fell for her game. Oh, hello, I'm okay. Why are you contacting me? Because it's your birthday, silly. You've had years to contact me, why this year? Truthfully, we couldn't find you. It has taken us this long to find your number. I thought to myself that it could be possible they had tried and failed to contact me over the years, but the first few years will have been purposefully no contact, as I did not change my number and they certainly had it saved. Anyway, I think we should meet up. Just us or the whole family if you would like, she continued. Oh wow, I guess so. That's quite a big deal, Shannon. Call me Mom. Not just yet. I understand we need to rebuild our relationship. A lot happened between you and the family, and I guess it's time to push the past behind us. I thought she was being sincere and did for the next while, so I agreed to this. I was actually thrilled at the prospect of rebuilding relationships with my family. My wife could see that something was up and tried to talk to me through it, but again, that part inside of me was still a little boy and just wanted his parents. So we agreed to meet up at a coffee shop in my childhood hometown, about an hour from where I now live. I was nervous to say the least as I sat there and waited for her. For a brief moment I thought that maybe she would not show up, that this was just another way to get at me. But then there she was, waving at me. I froze at first, taking what felt like a light year to wave back. I cannot believe it's really you! Look how much you've grown! She squealed as she walked over, pulling me into a big hug. I saw actual tears forming in her eyes before they spilled down her cheeks. It all seemed too real. And maybe it was, and the mission just changed along the way. I cried with her. I thought that I'd finally gotten my mother back. I guess I had not realized how much I actually missed her all these years. Did you really try to reach out to me? I remember asking as we sat down and ordered. Honestly, we tried so many times, but we just couldn't find you. She exclaimed with another cry. I smiled at that. It felt good to know that they hadn't purposely ignored me all this time. I felt guilty that I hadn't tried to reach out to them. I remember her ordering a lobster, and at the end of our little get-together, she sat back when the bill came, clearly hinting at me paying. I guess I had no problem with this, but I should have seen it as a red flag. To put it shortly, we spoke about the time I was kicked out and she explained her reasoning. She clearly still believed all the crap my brother set out for me, and I was not gonna start arguing, so just left it. When I went home and told my wife everything, she looked happy for me, but I could see in her eyes that she still had suspicions. Take it from me, guys, women know, they just do, listen to them. Me and Mom called numerous times over the next few weeks, chatting about all sorts. She was filling me in on my brother, which I did not really care for, but I guess was good to know. It did not seem like he had done much, to be honest. He still lives at home, yes, he is 36 and does not have a job. She kept trying to big up his accomplishments, which were very lacking. She asked if herself, my dad and brother could come around for dinner one afternoon, which I agreed to. My wife thought it was a good sign, at least, that they were coming all the way. They arrived, and I did find it odd how much they were gawking at my house and making faces at each other. "Wow, is that the car?" my brother asked my dad as soon as they arrived. "Yes, son, it is." My brother walked past me and my wife into the house, not even bothering to acknowledge us. "Sorry about that," my dad said, and then also walked past us. It was also only my mother who actually stopped and greeted me, giving my wife a bunch of flowers, which she thanked her for, but I could still see that suspicion in her eyes. We sat down at the table and my wife dished out a lovely meal she had prepared, and then it began. "So, that car outside. Quite a beast, isn't it?" my dad asked, and I assumed that he was simply feeling awkward, hence he decided to speak about my car before anything else. "Yeah," I chuckled. "It's my pride and joy." "Pride and joy better be right. Why do you deserve a Tesla Cybertruck?" my brother snarked. "Not much has changed then." "Son," my mom reprimanded. I think that's the first time I ever heard her tell him off for something. "What?" he hissed back. Gosh, this man is a child still. "Well, he has a point," my dad continued. "What?" my wife asked with a laugh. "Well, you know, you were always the bad child and he was our little saint. Why have you ended up with such an amazing life?" My dad stared at me as he spoke. I was shocked. What on earth was he on about? "Well, I guess I worked very hard, got a good job, and now I can afford all this." My parents exchanged a glance. My mother spoke next. "We just think that maybe you should give your car to your brother." What? Me and my wife screeched in unison. "He is family after all, and family should support one another." Mom continued with a smile. "Are you out of your mind? You kicked me out and now you want to talk about how families should support each other? I'm not giving that deadbeat my car. End of story. If that's all you came here for, then you can just leave." After the silence, I let out a laugh. "Oh my days, it really is all you came crawling back for, huh? My wealth, my car. You know what? I don't care. I should have seen this coming from a mile away." Again, my family were silent, sharing looks with each other. My brother was just angrily glaring at me. "Give him the car," my mother demanded, her voice suddenly less than pleasant. "No." "Do what we say, son. We are your parents," my dad shouted. "Get out," I spoke back, raising from my chair to glare down at him. I guess they forgot that I had done some growing these past years. They backed down and left without saying a word. A few minutes after the door slammed shut, we heard some horrifying sounds outside. We saw my useless brother attempting to break into my car. He was trying to smash the window with an axe, but which was not very successful. We called the cops and my parents tried to get him to stop before they arrived, but failed. The cops then came and dragged my brother kicking and screaming away from my car. I pressed charges and he was arrested on the spot. My parents were fuming, saying that I was a menace to the family and that they never wanted to see me again. Well, ditto to that. I did not bother keeping tabs on my brother, so I don't know how much time he got. My parents have not bothered me since, but I have a feeling they will try something again at some point. And honestly, it hurt that they came back into my life only to pull such a horrible stunt. My wife talked me through everything and ordered me to get some therapy to work through my childhood traumas, which I've been doing for a few weeks now. I hope I can live in peace for a while, not sure how they are going to react when I post about my new car though. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I really hope that OP cut out his horrible parents and horrible brother after this ridiculous stunt that they pulled. They are incredibly abusive and manipulative, and clearly they only want the worst for OP. Let me know what you would have done in this situation. And the next one is titled, "A Thief Gets What He Deserves." I was not sure if this was petty revenge or even malicious compliance, but I put it here as it seemed better. So I used to work at a large car dealer and everyone was given assigned parking. The women usually got the first few rows as the lot could be a little dark and scary during the winter, so consequently the guys got the rows up against the fence further away. No big deal. Anyway, my spot ended up being way down in the back corner of the lot and that was fine with me. Every now and then I would show up and there was a car in my spot, leaving me to scramble for another one before work started. The problem being that the used car salesmen were trying to hide a car they had prospects on over the weekend and did not want it sold out from under them until they could show up on their next shift, and if they worked Sunday, they usually had Monday off. Salesmen being salesmen, they would steal a sale from their brother to make a buck, but that's another issue. So they would hide cars in employee parking and then the person whose spot they stole would have to find another spot, usually at the last minute, and sometimes they would be a dick and just take someone else's assigned spot. causing a cascade effect. For some reason they seem to take my spot a lot though. The first couple of times I went to HR and told them, and they said they would pass it on, but it still happened 4 to 5 times a month and I was getting tired of it. On a bright and early Monday I came in and sure enough there was a used car in my spot. I was in a particular mood that day, so I grabbed the keys to the tow truck and moved the car way out onto the service lot and dumped it into the area our body shop used to store cars waiting for parts. I put the truck away and then parked my truck, a fine 75 IH Scout, in the spot and went to work. A few hours later, a salesman came looking for the car and after only finding my Scout, went around asking who owned said Scout and then finally found me. He wanted to know where his car was and I played stupid. I asked him where it was parked and made him take me to where he last saw it. He said right here and pointed to my space with my Scout in it. I said, I don't know, this is employee parking and it shouldn't be here anyway. Someone must have moved it. You should go see HR or your manager and complain to them, and then I walked off. I assumed he found it because I didn't see him again. Next Monday the same thing happened, but this time I towed the car and parked it across the street on another dealer's lot. I knew the manager there and he said it was fine. I returned the tow truck and went to work. A few hours later another salesman was back in my face looking for his car. I told him the same thing. I have no idea what you're talking about, and I went back to work. A few hours later, HR, the used car manager and the salesman show up in my bay looking for the same car from earlier. So then the manager and HR started asking me where the car was and I asked them to show me where it was parked. We went down to the lower lot and he pointed to my spot with my Scout sitting there and said it was right here. I asked him, so it was parked right here in my assigned parking place and now it's gone? He said yes, it was parked right here and I added in my spot. I just want to confirm that. Yes, in your spot. The UCM was getting annoyed with all of this and I asked, why are you getting pissed at me? Your kids, pointing at the sales guy, keep parking them here. It's my assigned spot and I've been dealing with this for months. He responds, I'll deal with that. Where's the damn car? I said, parked across the street at friendly dealers. What the hell? How did it get there? Well, I towed it. Hilarity and anger ensued and I went back to work. HR said, please don't do that anymore, come see me first. All was fine for about the next week until the following Monday, and sure enough there was another car that is parked in my spot. Pissed, I went to HR and she said she would talk to the manager as soon as he shows up. Tuesday and the same car is still there. I thought screw this and drove my Scout up front, and since it had been raining and my roads were all dirt and mud, my Scout looked pretty bad, so I parked it in the used car manager's spot right outside his office and made a point of parking badly and on the curb with mud clumping on the ground. I went to work. About 2 hours later, when that manager showed up to work, I get paged over the intercom. OP, please see the UCM in his office. I thought this was gonna be good. I walked into his office and he points to my Scout again. Is that yours? Yes. Why is it parked there? Because even after last week's incident with the towed car, your kids have parked in my spot again. So every time they park a car there, I will park here. H, well, you need to move your car. Me, I cannot. My spot is occupied. H, it cannot stay there. Me, well, it's going to until your kids move that car, and every day from now on, if there's a car in my spot, I'm parking here. H, who the F do you think you're talking to? Move the car or I'll get it towed. Me, what the hell is your problem? This is all your fault for not dealing with me like a manager. You wanna play that way? I'll move my Scout, but before I do, look at the rear number on that thing. H, so what? It's a nice big steel bumper, and what I'll do is just back into my spot, and if there's anything in my way, I'll just push it backwards. How does that sound? H, you cannot do that. Me, well, get off your lazy ass and tell your people to stop hiding cars in my spot. I'm tired of this. My car stays until your car moves. And then I walked out. I get back to my bay and about 10 minutes later I hear over the loudspeaker, OP, please see general manager in his office immediately. I walk into GM's office and the used car manager and HR are both there. The UCM looks pissed and HR looks amused. The GM asks what is going on, and I told him. I spoke to the salesman and asked nicely, I spoke to HR and told her what's going on, and I've spoken to Commander Douchebag a few times and about his people parking cars in my assigned parking. They still continued, so I started parking in his spot when his people parked in mine. He then shakes his head, asks the UCM if this is the case, and he starts to yammer. The GM just holds his hand up and says, stop! He looks to HR and asks if this is true, and then she said this has happened. The GM asks, "Can you please move your car and I'll settle this." I closed the door and could hear the GM reaming the UCM through a closed door 30 feet away. And yeah, ripe stars, I cannot even imagine how satisfying that must have felt for OP. But moral of the story, don't mess with a tow truck driver. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.